my problem deals with. It came from Operation Greater in Cook County. The corruption in the Illinois State Courts, when it transferred down to the Illinois Federal District Courts. The judges in the Central District of Illinois, Judge McCuskey, is a fair judge, but he could not give me justice like my first lawsuit in 2001 called for. So he diverted it to Senior Judge Baker, who did not give me justice. He chose pragmatism over justice by choosing which statutes to summarily dismiss. They are not what I pled, but they allowed him to summarily dismiss my allegation against the Department of Rehabilitative Services after they discriminated against me so many times starting in 2001.
Tell about some of the specifics of the discrimination.
The specifics of the discriminations. I began at the University of Illinois in business on a Child of Veteran scholarship from the state of Illinois. Once I got there, I ended up getting a B- GPA in all core courses my first fall, but I suffered a severe head injury in January of 1988, which kept me out of the U of I for a number of years. In that time, I therapized myself at local colleges and EIU before I followed my Child of Vet scholarship back to the U of I in the spring of 1991. That same spring, I found out how the Illinois Department of Rehabilitative Services was going to use me as one of their disabled pantomimes at UIUC. So they went about paying for all of my education at the University of Illinois, both tuition, room and board, fees, therapy, anything, at the U of I only. They did this with an 80% share of federal money. I went there, I ended up struggling at the U of I in business. I didn't know what to do other than follow the structure of college. So I kept following the structure of college, but I was finding it way too hard. So I asked my doors counselor if I could transfer to some easier college, and he just told me, I can't help you anyplace else but the U of I, Jeff, which at the time I just saw as no. I know now I should have asked about transferring someplace else, but I did not know at the time. After this was probably 3 years after my comatose, after my TBI. I ended up struggling all the way through the U of I in business until I graduated with my business degree in May of 1994. According to UIUC standards, when I was at the U of I, UIUC told me to go to St. Louis, go to my proximal St. Louis, Missouri, and solicit employment. So I didn't know what to do, so I just latently, I guess, a year after I graduated, I followed that idea and I found employment in St. Louis. But I went back to my counselor at Doors and asked him for support with a career fair I found in St. Louis. But what did my counselor say? Oh, St. Louis, Jeff, is not in Illinois, so I can't help you, nor do I have any idea what else to tell you to do. So I was totally lost at the time. UAUC told me to do what I did, but doors would not help me do what I did. Where else can I go from here?
Is Doors a Illinois entity?
Doors is no more now. There were an Illinois entity, Department of Rehabilitation Services. They had ignored a 1978 federal funding amendment, Rehab Act amendment, a 1992 ADA amendment, and a 1998 Rehab Act amendment. All of these were ignored. But in 1990, the Doors specifically, they appointed, let's back up I guess, Illinois has a problem of, Illinois is one of them, I want to say only 8 states that allows their governors to independently appoint department heads. So what did former Illinois Governor Edgar do? He just followed his rules and independently appointed the incompetent and the non-supervisor Carl Suter to be the new Doors leader. Subsequently, Doors Carl Suter just ignored this 1992 ADA mandate I talked about and the 1998 mandate. He just blew them off. He was supposed to have these answered by, as I found, he was supposed to have this 92 mandate answered by Doors supervisors and managers, but what did he could not see any value in this mandate. So what did he do? He chose to have intern Tim Andriano answer it. And Tim doesn't work for the state of Illinois. He left the state of Illinois. I think he moved back to California, I think, but I'm not sure. Soon after he completed this, wrote this self-evaluation for the 92 mandate. The 98 mandate, the 1998 choice mandate, I don't know how it was ignored. I just know that I did not get any choice ever. Ask me another question. I can.
Okay. You obviously have a disability.
Right.
And Illinois violated the law and then dropped you like a hot potato.
Exactly.
And did you go to rehabilitative services in Missouri?
No, I didn't know at the time. Yes, I did not know to do that at the time. I was told that, let's see, I tried to go to Missouri and I asked them for testing accommodations at this, well, let's see, the backup I guess again. After finding this, I went down to Missouri and I found this 1995 career fair that I asked Illinois Doors to help me with, but they wouldn't help me. So I asked for accommodations at a test the career fair. I went down to the career fair without any support from Doors. I went to all these job fair people all by myself. Doors was nowhere around as usual because they had to do something. So then I called the city of St. Louis, the Bud Taylor was his name. He was retiring in 1995, so he thought he would give me the career fair. So I thought I was lucky, but then I found out about Doors' incompetence. So what did this retailer do for me? He coerced the 1996 City of St. Louis job test. I thought, good, but what did I try to do? I went back to the Missouri, the city BR, and asked them for testing accommodations like I had all my years at the U of I. But what did this counselor tell me? Sure, Jeff, we can give you testing accommodations if you can get some proof, if you can have Illinois Doors call me in St. Louis. But what did I call? I called my Doors counselor. What did he do? Laughed me off the phone. He just dropped the call. It was useless. I could not get any support from Doors because it was over the Mississippi wall.
Right. So, what did you do to try to get some fair treatment? Did you file a lawsuit?
I filed lawsuits. I started by filing a lawsuit in 2001. I could not. My judgment was severely warped all the time since 1995. I even tried to go to SIU Edwardsville, but my judgment was not good at all, so I didn't know what to do. I just followed them. They told me to go in the summer. I could find an internship, but once I got there, the internships weren't anything until the fall, so I was lost again. This was in 97. Then 1998, I started researching how all this was wrong for Illinois to do. I found out about the federal gratuity that Illinois abused. I found out about the 1992 mandate. I didn't find out about the 98 until later. But I found out so much about how the state of Illinois abused their federal subsidy until I sued the state of Illinois in 2001 at CDIL number 012125. That was a good suit, I think, because I specifically in that suit I alleged how Doors was using 78.9% federal money. The judge of the Central District of Illinois, Judge McCuskey, read my suit, but he could not honorably dismiss it. So what did he do? He diverted it to Senior Judge Baker. What did Judge Baker do? He also couldn't dismiss it. So what did he do? I can't prove this, but he ex parte called me outside of the court in August of 2001 and suggested things that I changed my allegations to. I did not understand it, so I just agreed with him. But then soon after that, within a week, I faxed him many more documents that solidified my 78.9% federal funding allegation, but he just ignored these and made up two of his own dismissible allegations that he summarily dismissed in 21012125.
So, did they give a basis for the dismissal?
The basis for this, he told me a 42 USC 42 USC 12132 was my ADA charge, and he didn't feel that just one charge was not good enough to summarily dismiss my suit on, so he ignored my federal funding charge as my motions and my original documents prove he ignored, and he alleged 42 USC 1983 charge that I knew that I had read that was only had a 60-day timetable. So I never alleged that, but he chose that because he could summarily dismiss my suit. And I found out afterwards, I learned of res judicata, which I did not know of in 2001, but I found out over 2 years later.
So the res judicata means you can't try the same thing again.
Exactly.
You can't allege the same cause of action again,
right,
against the same party.
Right. I've tried that. I've found other ways to allege different statutes, but then res judicata, I found res judicata does not apply in all cases, but to judges, it's not to judges, to Illinois federal judges, it's the law.
It's convenient for them to claim.
In other words.
Yeah, it's their law.
Right.
It's not the federal law, but it's their
law.
Tell me about the suitors.
The call suitor was appointed to be the Doors leader when I was being abused as a Doors pantomime. Carl Suter was not qualified at all. He was incompetent, but he is the younger brother of Supreme Court clerk William K. Suter, who, let's see, he was in the Army for 29 years. He was in the Civil Law Army for 29 years. He wasn't, what was it called? He was not reappointed, is what I've learned. So he became, I don't know if this was because of or just happened, but he became clerk of the U.S. Supreme Court in 1991 after Carl became leader of Doors in 1990. So Carl thought he could ignore whatever he wanted. So he chose Andriano to answer this 1992 ADA mandate. Because Carl just essentially thought his brother would protect him no matter what he did or what he didn't do. So he just ignored every rule he could. And I ended up paying the price for this. Carl was fired after 18.5 years. Have I said that before?
No.
Oh, sorry.
You mentioned it before, but say it again.
Carl Suter was fired from Illinois Doors after only 18.5 years. Not 20 years, 18.5 years, because this was less than he was fired on, the world remembers 9/11, but I remember Carl was fired on 11/9/01. So I remember that he was fired less than 6 months after my first lawsuit, 012125. And Carl's brother, William K. Suter, has been protecting Carl at the U.S. Supreme Court by ignoring every one of my writs that I filed to the U.S. Supreme Court since 2003. He finally docketed my writ 0810986. But what did he do? My certified motion proved that my certified motion was never delivered, but he has control of the U.S. Supreme Court docket. So what did he tell the U.S. Supreme Court docket? That he received my 1025 motion and it was denied, but I know that my motion, according to certified mail, was never delivered to him.
So he never even got it, but denied it.
Well, exactly. He has control over his Supreme Court docket, so he denied it on that docket, but the certified mail never got to him.
That's unbelievable.
It's not unbelievable. It's believable. It's not unbelievable if you've seen what I've seen, how the system has been jury-rigged, I guess.
How did they even know to deny it if it wasn't docketed? Did you write a letter, or how did they know?
I sued them over it. I sued again. I sued William K. Suter himself at number 117374. But this has been just denied, I guess, by all of the Central District judges again until it went back to the Supreme Court at the writ I gave you, 117374. But let's see, I know the clerk of the pro se manager, I don't know if he's a clerk or not. The pro se manager at the U.S. Supreme Court, Jeff Atkins, he just followed what William K. Suter told him to do and just dismissed my 1173-74 this year in 2012 after William K. Suter had already retired last year. I know this because William Suter has always signed all of my writs, just a scribble a W any way he could, but it was a printed signature in this last denial. I've told everybody about this, but I'm hoping to get thousands of people to hear my story now. I went to, the state senator Dale Ryder in my hometown of Mattoon, Illinois. He has specifically told me, and as I'm sure you are very familiar with, he works for me, but he will not help me hold his, since he is paid for primarily by the federal government. I think I found he will not help me hold either suitor accountable in the state of Illinois. I've asked him much, but he will not do anything to help me resolve my, what's it called? Recourse, give me recourse, I guess. Redress.
Jeff, how were you injured?
I was injured and I went to the U of I one semester. I got a B- GPA, but then the day before I was scheduled to return for my spring semester, I turned left and I didn't see a car coming towards me, so I was the only one injured, but I suffered a severe head injury and a 5-week comatose, I think that my parents told me. It's different accident, but it's very similar recovery to the 1991 movie Regarding Henry, starring Harrison Ford. Afterwards, after my injury, my friends from the U of I came up my hospital stay was in Champaign, like where I went to school at. So my friends at the U of I visited me there often. I didn't remember it during my comatose days, but I remembered it soon before I left the hospital. After I couldn't go back to the U of I for many years, so I went to local colleges and Eastern Illinois University before following my childhood vet scholarship back to the U of I.
Right, so your speech is affected.
My speech is affected, but my mentality was affected. As you can, TBI has affected judgment, not intellect, judgment. Because I could remember the calculus quadratic equation and how to use it and all this stuff soon after I got out of the hospital. But I couldn't judge anything different than going back to the U of I as soon as I got out of the hospital. I found out differently afterwards, but at the time I didn't know. I progressively got better over the years, decades essentially.
But your judgment is good now in terms of evaluating
Everything,
the legal system and the courts, isn't it?
My judgment now is perfect, I guess, but that doesn't help me. That does not help me, as I've read about it in the Federal Register, I believe it was, that or the 1992 Title II ADA Action Guide, which specifically told Andriano, Carl Suter, or Andriano how to compose this self-evaluation, and how all of this evaluation was supposed to be composed by doors, supervisors, and managers, not just one intern, Tim Andriano. But Carl didn't see any value in it, so he figured he'd give his subordinates a gift by letting somebody else do their work for them.
So, based on the Americans with Disabilities Act, and just based on common decency,
Right.
the Department of Rehabilitative Services should have helped you. And they...
It's not so much they should have, they were mandated to help me, but they violated these mandates, so they ignored helping me. Just a case in point, like the Department of Rehabilitation Services paid for me to go through a 1995 First Mid-Illinois, it was First National Bank at the time. They paid for me to go through a bank internship, but did they give me any coaching there? No, they didn't have any idea what coaching a client involves, so they hired a third party, Barb Kalinsky from Carl Hospital up in Champaign, so she drove an hour down to Mattoon to coach me in a certain way that Doris had never told her how to coach. Instead of Doris walking the 2 blocks from the Doris office in Mattoon, 2 doors from the Doris office in Mattoon to this First National Bank internship that they paid for 100%.
What I'd like to get is a soundbite where you say, based on the Americans with Disabilities Act, I had a valid legal claim,
Yes.
but the judges, federal judges, did not allow me to they wrongfully dismissed my case and didn't allow me to pursue my valid legal claim, something like that.
Okay. I know that federal judge, primarily Judge McCuskey and primarily Judge Baker, they did not pursue justice. They pursued pragmatism by summarily dismissing my case. I know Judge Baker was the one who summarily dismissed my case, but I know Judge McCuskey is also he is responsible for everything that his subordinates decided.
And so they dismissed your valid claim,
right,
based on your disability.
10, 11 years ago, and the U.S. Supreme Court precedent, my Title II mental disability is still undecided because I haven't been able to get it through to the U.S. Supreme Court because of William K. Souter.
So, if you will, say as a soundbite, I have a valid legal claim, but the courts, and even the court clerk at the Supreme Court has blocked my valid claims.
Exactly. I've had, it's not a matter of, I know you've got one or two impediments to your story, but I've got so many impediments. The judges of the Central District Court, and then the clerk at the main clerk at the U.S. Supreme Court also denied me justice, all to protect his brother, Carl Souter. I found out that they were brothers because I learned that Mary Sybil Souter, Carl Souter, and William Souter's mother died in August 2010.
All right, any last things you want to say? We've got about 5 minutes.
Any other questions? I can talk so much more. Give me some more questions.
What should Congress do?
Congress should, this will be, for my valid ministerial claims, I think Judge Baker should be impeached. I don't know that he will be impeached because he will deny everything that I can prove happened.
But they ought to conduct, House of Representatives should conduct an investigation and impeachment.
The House of Representatives should conduct a serious investigation of Judge Baker, and there are many other things that I've heard about Judge Baker from many other lawyers that I've spoken to, much from Cook County and Central District of Illinois. But the House of Representatives should conduct an impeachment investigation, and the Senate should confirm his impeachment.
That's a wrap. Good job. You're